From the studios of TLC Talk Radio, it's a Vibrant Mix with Tasha, Tamiko, and Fred. I'm your girl Tasha here without my fabulous co-host, but I'm here nonetheless. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at A Vibrant Mix, and catch past shows on our website, avibrantmix.com. Today, A Vibrant Mix wants to focus on Hurricane Harvey that has turned into Tropical Storm Harvey that's hit Texas and Louisiana. Lots of devastation, displaced people, lives turned upside down, and certainly our thoughts, prayers, and money are with those affected. This is the biggest rainstorm that has hit the U.S., and as of Wednesday morning, the death toll was at 30. It hit Houston first on Friday, and then it made landfall for the third time today. Our guest on the line is our friend and journalist, Jason Palmer. He is always with us, and he always seems to be traveling when it's time to do a segment. Welcome, Jason.
Welcome. Last time was Miami, this time Minnesota. So I went from south to north.
Okay, well, I'm going to start following you, and maybe we can just do it from the road. We'll do it like that.
Okay.
So tell us what's happening right now with the storm.
Well, right now they're still kind of in rescue mode, but they're also switching a little bit to recovery mode because this storm, Tasha, is just so huge. It's currently, as we speak, it's still in Texas, but it's also part in Louisiana. They are doing rescues now, still in Houston, but also in other parts like Beaumont, Texas, Port MacArthur, Texas, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of media coverage out there because these are smaller areas, but there are thousands of people affected by this storm. And currently, while the death toll may be at 30, I would say probably when this whole thing wraps up, you're going to see death tolls in the thousands, much like you saw with Katrina.
Yeah.
And that's based off of what General Henry, who we all remember from Hurricane Katrina, the African-American general who came in and kind of took over after Bush kept messing around. He finally sent somebody in who knew what they were doing. General Henry this morning made it to Houston, and he is a consultant for CNN, and he was explaining that once the recovery part starts, when they have to go into all of these homes where people abandon their homes, that's when they're going to find a lot of bodies. And unfortunately, it's going to be a lot of people who are disabled. There's going to be a lot of elderly people. There's going to be people who were living by themselves. They're going to find a lot of bodies in attics and other places all throughout the home. So the worst of this storm is actually yet to come, even though the storm itself is winding down, Tasha.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because, a lot of people have been in survival mode the last few days, and they've been in shock. Well, now the reality of a lot of these people have lost everything that they've owned. Now the reality is set in. Your body, and you know this as well, your body psychologically prepares you for the present situation.
Right.
So when you're in a life or death situation, your adrenaline kicks in, you're doing a lot of things to just survive. Well, now they're coming out of the survival mode. We've got them physically safe, many people. There's still many who are not, but many who are physically safe. But now the mental anguish is going to kick in. And this is where the mental health piece kicks in. This is where the emotional piece kicks in. And they say the weather for Houston tomorrow, unfortunately, it's going to be 90 to 91 degrees tomorrow. And it's going to be humidity. Anybody who's been to Houston knows that humidity is a monster.
Yes.
And you're going to have 90-degree temperatures along with high humidity. You've got water everywhere. Well, now you're going to see the breeding of the water pathogens, the water diseases. You also have animals that's in the water. You have raw sewage that's in the water. You're going to have dead bodies, dead animals, lots of disease in the water, which will lead to the death toll some weeks, some months down the road. And it's just a shame that they were unable to evacuate that city because so many people are put in danger after the storm itself by the diseases.
Right.
And I'm very worried about the people who, even the people who didn't have any water in their home, I talked to a number of people in Houston. They have no water in their home, but their streets are completely flooded.
Right.
And I'm trying to explain to them, you still need to get out because when that water turns, what it's going to do is it's going to turn into a toxic soup
Yeah.
because you're going to have oil, you're going to have gas, you're going to have all sorts of stuff in that water. And that stuff is going to, some of it is going to, turn into air.
Yeah.
And you're going to be breathing that stuff in. So, I feel really bad for the people right now down in that area. Unfortunately, I think the worst is yet to come, as General Henry said.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very critical for all of us who know people down there who are in the house. They need to really leave.
Yeah.
They need to really leave. It's going to take a while for the water to recede. You've also got to worry about the infrastructure. A lot of these structures have been waterlogged now for a number of days. You're going to start seeing mudslides. You're going to start seeing sinkholes. It's just not a good environment to be in.
Yeah. Dangerous on a variety of levels. People were unable to get out. And, sometimes people watch TV and they say, well, why didn't they just leave? And you say, well, listen, sometimes people are in survival mode day to day, not in the event of a storm, but maybe their resources did not allow them to. Some people may have decided, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to ride it out. But other people didn't really have an option financially. There was nowhere for them to go. And I think people need to, keep that in mind. It's not always viable. What can we do now, though, to help those people? You're right. They need to get out. It's going to turn into a multi-layered, dangerous situation. What can we do to help?
That's an excellent point, Tasha. That was brought up today. Of course, the mayor of Houston has taken a lot of criticism for why he did not evacuate. And he's basically said he cannot evacuate people in 2 days, 6.5 million people. And he does have a good point. I think the man was in a trick bag no matter what he did.
Yeah.
We have to try to learn from these events, especially with Katrina, that the low-income people are the people who are really the most at risk.
That's
because,
right.
like you said, they can't afford to leave. So that means the government has to provide ways to get people out of these zones.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that it's happened, once again, we're going to see how our government reacts, with FEMA, just the military in general. I posted on my page 3 days ago, Tasha, that especially when you have something like Fort Hood, which is in Texas, about 3.5 hour drive away, full of soldiers, full of equipment, they should have had trucks coming to that area. They're going to need to get some military trucks in that area to get people out. But once they get out, where are we going to put them? Where's the housing going to be?
Right.
I think the average citizen, unfortunately, many of us, the best thing we can do is send money to some of these charitable organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And even that comes with a risk because every time one of these things happen, we hear that the money never gets to the people. Somebody stole the money.
Definitely.
But unfortunately, it's really, Jason and Tasha, we're not handled how to do this. We're not really trained in how to do this stuff. I think people can go down there and volunteer. They do need people to sort the clothes. They're getting a lot of clothes donations. They need people to organize things like that. I don't know how we as the average citizen can help, but I think you should help in whatever you feel your skills can allow you to help too.
I agree.
If you're a nurse,
yeah.
If you're a nurse, I'm sure you can go down there. If you're EMT, I'm sure your skills are needed. If you're a social worker, those skills are needed. If you're a fireman or a policeman, your skills will be needed down there. I think, there is a way we can do it, but we all have to do it safely because obviously they can't have half the country come down there.
Right.
Because they just don't have logistically places for everybody to stay. So, even if you run down there, where are you going to stay? The hotels are already booked up.
Yeah. Those that are not damaged.
Exactly. It's a logistical nightmare. So, unfortunately, I think a lot of us really can do is help them financially to help these agencies that are already down there provide the support that they can. And I also think you're going to see, much like we did in Hurricane Katrina, many cities are going to end up having to welcome in citizens from Houston who've lost everything.
Definitely.
It should be every city in the United States, from Pittsburgh to Cleveland to Portland, Oregon. We have to get our citizens out of Houston because much of it is going to be destroyed. And those people are not going to be able to get back into their homes for years. We've
Exactly.
seen it with Katrina.
Yeah.
So I think all cities in America have to open up their doors. I think all citizens have to help out whatever best way we can.
Agreed. I have a friend in Killeen, Texas, and while they got rain, they did not see anywhere near the catastrophe that has happened to her neighbors. But what she did, she said she just felt completely motivated to just stop what she was doing. She said, Tasha, I grabbed my purse and I went to the store and I bought everything I thought somebody would need because she said we're starting to see the people come to Colleen. And so I just sent her some cash. So maybe some, those of us who know people who are nearby who can get to the people that are most affected, maybe we can do individual kind of drives because all help, is needed. You mentioned giving to charitable organizations and sometimes the money not going where it is allegedly designated to go. CharityNavigator.org is a site that people can use to research where they would like to see their monies go. And I always suggest to people, do your research, look and see how much of the money you give is actually used for the relief of these people who are victims, whatever that catastrophe looks like. So I think that's an important point that you brought up.
Right, and I also noticed that especially in our community, a lot of the black fraternities and sororities do things.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of Phi Alpha shirts. I saw some Delta shirts of people who I saw down there volunteering. I don't know if they're from a particular chapter down in that area, or if they went down there, or if these were just people who went on their own and that's what they had on. But a lot of our black fraternities and sororities will definitely chip in on things like this.
Yes.
And I think, it's just going to take a little time, but, our community will get organized because I'm concerned about everybody down there. But on the real, most of the time it's our people who get the short end on the stick, even in these types of situations.
Mm-hmm.
So
before Kanye lost his mind, he said that.
That's right. So we have to look out for our brothers and sisters, down there.
Absolutely.
In Houston.
Absolutely.
And all, we got people all throughout down there in Texas, not just in Houston. So I would like to see, once that information comes out with the sororities and the black fraternities that, they can get that out to communities across the country. And I think that's a good way we can start as well.
Yeah. I agree. Now, we talked about, the government being ready. We should have learned from the lessons from Katrina and other disasters that have happened. You made a post the other day that you kind of produced the show for me. And you posted that we need to be in a position to take care of ourselves. And you actually showed a picture of some things that everyone should have in their homes to sustain them for at least 72 hours. Talk about what motivated that post.
I am an Eagle Scout with the Boy Scouts of America. I was a Cub Scout at 9. I was an Eagle Scout all the way from 12 until 18 when I received my Eagle Scout award. Our motto is be prepared. Yeah. That's the Boy Scout motto. I've lived that every day of my life. And too often, on many different fronts, our community is rather reactionary instead of being proactive. Mm-hmm. We won't prepare for anything. Yeah. We know the government ain't coming for us, Tasha.
They are not coming.
They ain't coming. So why do we constantly put ourselves in position where we're depending on them?
Yeah.
There are many things we can do on our own. And I did post a photograph. My wife was, she thinks I'm crazy anyway, but I basically took a lot of things out of our own personal emergency kits that I put together. I spread them out on our living room floor, and I took a photograph of them, and I posted it on Facebook. And I just listed some basic things that everyone needs. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start by saying this. If you're a single person like yourself, Tasha, who lives by yourself, then you only have to worry about you.
Right.
But if you're married with kids, each person in your household needs their own individual emergency kit.
Right.
It can be called a buck out bag. It can be called the apocalypse bag. I don't care what you call it. But there are certain essential items you need in your bag. So I'll just go through just some of the basics.
Sure.
A flashlight.
Yeah.
Okay? A lantern. Some sort of fire-making thing, whether it's matches, a lighter, a fire torch, you're going to need to be able to make fire. Mm-hmm. Water. Water is the key to life. You want to have at least 3.5 gallons of water stored up for each individual. Mm-hmm. Okay? Food, emergency food. Canned good foods, not going to work for you. Come on now. We in 2017, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
You can get packets of emergency food from Target and Walmart now. Personally, I go on a website called Patriots for Life,
Mm-hmm.
and I order emergency packet food. You can get them from a 3-day supply all the way up to a year's supply, up to you. I would recommend having that type of food stored up for at least 7 days for each individual person. It doesn't take up a lot of space because they come in packets. They're very similar to the MRE, meals ready to eat, that the military uses.
Mm-hmm.
You need that type of food. You need rain gear,
Mm-hmm.
a poncho. That's going to cover that. You need a first aid kit. You're going to need tampons or maxi pads.
Yep.
And let me explain this, Tasha. It's not just for the ladies.
Okay.
Okay, fellas, pay attention. Tampons, maxi pads are not for just the ladies. Why you want to include that in your kit, fellas, is in a situation like this, what we're seeing, when people walking through that water, people are going to get cuts. They're going to get nasty cuts and abrasions. Tampons and maxi pads can be used as a Band-Aid because they absorb what?
Blood.
Blood. So, yes, fellas, get you some tampons, get you some maxi pads, throw them in your kit.
Right.
They're great for absorbing large amounts of blood if you catch a serious cut. You want some sort of hand sanitizer in there.
Definitely.
You want a cutting instrument. I personally have a survival knife, which doubles as a knife, a saw, and it also has fishing line in it and a compass. I have a survival knife, cost me about $50. You're going to need a cutting instrument. A gun. Yes, I know we have many people in our community. We're not pro-gun. I'm not trying to make you Second Amendment lovers or join an NRA. But when all hell break loose, you got to be able to defend yourself.
Yeah.
And these people out here going to have guns. That's something that is already kind of happening in Houston. We're not seeing it on the big level, and they kept it kind of quiet. But there have been some incidents of people getting carjacked and people impersonating police officers going to people's house, and they need to get out, and they go in there. You need protection for your wife, your kids, and yourself.
Yeah.
A handgun with at least 100 rounds is going to be necessary. Personally, I have a handgun and a rifle for these situations.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to have this type of stuff. Just a whole list of things. If you have prescription medicines, you need your medicines, folks.
Yeah.
Walgreens and Walmart ain't going to be open. You ain't going to be able to get your meds.
Right.
So
and you can't get there anyway, even if they were.
You can't get there anyway. So if you know you need to take your blood pressure medicine every day, you should have a week stored up in your emergency kit, period. Any type of prescription meds. Critical documents, passports, birth certificates, whatever. All this stuff should be kept in a safe in a house, like a fireproof and a waterproof safe.
Definitely.
And everyone should know where it is. So in the case of emergency, you have to evacuate. You know where it is. I bet you there are people who are running around trying to find these important documents before they evacuate it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the time. You need to have all this stuff in one place, in like a waterproof bag where you can get to it, boom, get to it and go.
Exactly.
There are a host of other things that I also listed. And then the really important thing, Tasha, as well, is that when you get your bags together for each individual member of your family, make sure you store it in a place where everybody knows where it is, and make sure it's not in the basement.
Right.
Because the basement, if it floods, you just lost all your emergency stuff.
Right. You need to store it somewhere higher.
Let's put this somewhere higher in the house. Let's put this in a closet. Don't pile a whole bunch of stuff on top of it. Make it easily accessible where everybody can get to it, so you all can just strap on and get out of there if you need to get out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many websites that list what you should have in an emergency kit. I just gave you some of the basic stuff. There's a lot more stuff you can put in it, and it's an investment. It's an investment that everyone should have. It doesn't have to be a natural disaster. Look at the political climate in our country right now.
Definitely.
We really could have another civil war break out, folks. We really could.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be able to hold your own for a while until you can get yourself to a safe location.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's extremely important. And I know our community, we're kind of slow on this type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We wait until something happens and, I can talk about it now and everybody say, yeah, that's a good idea. I need people to actively start doing this like today.
Yes.
And have their kids together and, be ready for when something happens.
Yeah. You don't want to be caught flat-footed.
Not at all.
Yeah. Definitely. So this is a way for us to help ourselves. We talked about ways to help those who have been affected by this most recent tragedy. But as you mentioned, anything could happen at any time, whether we're talking about the political climate and the possibility of, civil war, or just another natural disaster. My parents always taught me to just kind of be ready for whatever. So my mother, she's hilarious, but she buys everything in bulk. Like sometimes I just go to her house instead of Walmart. But I also think the same way. I may not have as much as she does, but you can open, a storage area in my house and go, why do you have all of this? I'm Linda's kid. So my mind works that way anyway. And this is just more information that for me and for the listeners that we can, utilize to our best advantage should something disastrous happen.
Right. And what's going on down there in Houston, I'm sure there were people who even did prepare for this, who did have their kids. They had told people to prepare for 3 or 4 days. Mm-hmm. This thing is going to be longer than 3 or 4 days. Yeah. So, you have to be prepared at least for the 3 or 4 days to, maybe by that time someone will be able to come get you to assist you and help you out. Mm-hmm. Or, maybe you can leave your place and go get some more supplies. But, it's just, we're getting ready to see some very dangerous times down there in that area. Mm-hmm. As that heat kicks in, as people have not showered in 3 days, mm-hmm. as people are hungry, as the water is running out, as they can't get fuel, you're getting ready to see the breakdown of people. Everyone has a breaking point. You're getting ready to see the mental and emotional breakdown of people. And when that happens, people go into animalistic behavior and survival mode. And you have to understand that and be ready to protect yourselves from not just the situation with the floods and everything, but from other human beings as well.
Yeah.
So, it's just the nature of the beast. And ironically, this is not the only tragedy going on, mm-hmm. but even though it's the one in the news, over in India, they've got massive floods as well. And I heard today they've had at least 1,000 people die already over there. And it's pretty much the exact same situation as what's going on in Texas and Louisiana. Just a large amount of rain created mudslides, streets have turned to rivers. I saw people in India on the news hanging onto the top of trees. I mean, it's just as bad in that part of the world as well. Mm-hmm. So, this is a universal lesson that you and I are kind of talking about.
Yeah, definitely. And I appreciate you coming on to the show and discussing it. It was timely. We're a podcast and we typically, record a week in advance, but this is breaking news. It's a Wednesday. We never record on a Wednesday. But I had to get myself here and get it together so that we could get this information to our listeners. It's very important. Jason, as always, we appreciate your input on everything we do here at A Vibrant Mix, but particularly in this situation, because as you mentioned, our people tend to get the short end of the stick. So we really appreciate it.
No problem. It's good talking to you as always. Please be safe, and let's keep everybody down there going through that in our talk.
Indeed. This has been A Vibrant Mix with Tasha, Tamiko, and Fred. Really A Vibrant Mix with Tasha and Jason from the studios of TLC Talk Radio. Don't forget to check us out on all social media at A Vibrant Mix and catch past episodes of A Vibrant Mix at avibrantmix.com. We'll catch you guys next week.